Welcome back to today's episode of the Wave Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the California voters' approval for all tax initiatives, the most recent updates in the Trump criminal trial, and Chinese incursions in the South China Sea. Take it away.
So for those of you who live in California, this is going to be on the ballot in November, unless Gavin Newsom has his way. Essentially what happened is there was a collection of over 1 million signatures to make it where all future tax proposals, fees, and whatnot will have to be approved by all California voters. So like a majority yes on new tax proposals when it comes to local, state. And so a lot of people are looking at this and the government as, you know, it's going to handicap the government and what they're able to do and how they're able to raise taxes. So currently Gavin Newsom is going to the Supreme Court to have this stopped and removed from the ballot. And so the overall question is, if, you know, you get the signatures to put something on the ballot, right? Can the state basically remove that from the ballot, even though the people got the signatures to put it on the ballot, right? Because this will create a system where anything that the state legislature or the governor doesn't like could basically say, I can remove this.
It does set up a precedent for people in power. If they are able to stifle the bill by pulling it in the Supreme Court, it does set an unfortunate precedent.
Is it a constitutional amendment?
I believe so. Because currently,
because that's very serious. Because
currently there has to be a 2/3 vote in the legislature to approve new taxes. So now that'll stay in place, but on top of that, all the people in California, the voters, will have to weigh in as well.
What is the ratio on the vote of California people approving or disapproving the tax measures?
It's like, wait. What do you mean? Like,
what is the current polling on this measure? Will it pass based on current knowledge?
So if it has to be passed by the people of California, it's 2/3 in the Senate, but then it also has to be what population of voters have to approve or deny.
You know, like every other ballot measure. You know, if you get more votes towards.
So it's just
more
more
a simple
votes,
majority
yes,
is what he's saying.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for putting it in plainer terms. But basically, a lot of people, you know, they look at this as the Starve the Beast kind of bill. But again, you know, if the voters vote for it, it's kind of like, you know, they got the signatures.
I mean, real quick, the voters are idiots. We're idiots. I'm an idiot. Most people in California don't know what it's like to run an economy, and they really shouldn't have any say in the banalities and vagaries of taxation. They can't possibly understand, not any one single person in the government understands the whole picture of California budget. It's up to a deliberative process between legislators to make sure that many voices are heard in the compromise that is the final product. If we were to come up with an emergency and they needed new taxes, they would have to go through this onerous process of not only getting a 2/3 vote in the legislature, but changing the Constitution so that they can make new taxes again. And they lose the ability to react to changes in inflation, in monetary value. They have to go through more bureaucracy in order to react to the risk that we're living in this world. And beyond that, the whole point of government, I know I'm ranting too much, but the whole point of government as in a democracy is to offload these concerns from citizens who can't be bothered. I got too much going on to figure out if we need taxes.
But like if the the issue is one Connor drink. The issue is
it's not
you're racking up points.
Censored on TikTok. And apparently not on YouTube either. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But it's on TikTok.
When it comes to advertising dollars.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's one of those things. Thank you for saying it 2 more times.
I gotta let my bosses know because that's the one word we don't censor.
Okay, let's get back on topic.
No, look. So your point being like your average voter is stupid.
I don't mean stupid relative to global economics and macroeconomics.
I just think you don't need to be an economist to recognize that there's a lot of waste. And granted, I do think one of the big side effects of everyone is going to be
starve the beast.
No one is okay. I'm sorry. You've said that. What does that mean?
Go ahead.
This is a common theme that came about after the Kansas City or Kansas passed similar legislation back in the day, which gave power to the voters, and it kind of just destroyed the state because it created the exact same situation of what he's talking about.
What?
Destroyed the state?
Yeah, I think
That
Kansas
seems
is
to
still
be
a
exactly the thing that I didn't want to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So why? I think that feels like a bit of an argument not to do that.
Yeah.
On the grounds
Unless-
of my
yeah.
point is, no one will ever vote to increase their taxes.
Exactly.
Right.
You will
Which
have
is
to
why
appeal to
it
the
is-
majority and be like, "Hey, we're going to increase
Which
taxes
is why
on
it's
the
called
wealthy."
starving the beast, is because you're literally taking away their power to raise taxes.
But like California already has some of the highest taxes in the entire union because we are one of the biggest economies in the entire union. Like,
And relative to percentage of incomes, we don't have that high taxes relative to what people pay
Don't
in
listen
other
to him,
states.
everybody. He's just wrong. But
I just,
Because of a thing called I can't remember if it's called embedded taxes, but like Texas has like a sales tax, but the sales tax applies at multiple points of the process, and so the end product has a 30% higher price tag because of all of the taxes on all of the products that went into
but
that.
California still has a
And-
higher sales tax, so
yeah,
just ignore him.
we also have all kinds of sales tax.
And there's actually a lot of regressive taxes in the state of California.
I
so just-
wouldn't deny that, but like the tax center that you're getting, we've already been over this on this podcast, that he gets his information from is totally biased and cooks the numbers and is really like a conservative think tank.
Who said I got those
And-
numbers from the Tax Foundation?
You did get some statistics on our
And
Back
and
in
you
the
and
business
you
talk.
were able
Back
to
in the day.
name the
Back in the day.
the
Back in
thing.
the day.
No, but the thing is, like, there's a lot of waste. There's so much
Oh, sure.
bureaucratic waste. When again, we can tie this into homelessness. We
There's-
can tie this into a million things. When you've spent $24 billion in taxes over the last several years on things that, you know,
Yeah, but
it's-
to get rid of the waste, that's not a reason to starve
But
the system
something-
from any
No, I
resources.
do agree
That
that
might
things do
increase
have
the
to
risk,
thin, like,
and that might increase the waste.
if the taxes weren't going up, and how would the inability to create new higher taxes on people?
China, when they initially set up their bureaucratic process, they paid their administrators deliberately too low to live, and so the administrators had to survive using bribes.
Yeah,
I mean,
but that's
that's-
China.
and that's-
where the average
and
income is 13
and
grand a year.
that
Terrible.
that like most of the government ran in corruption, and the result was huge growth because everybody, all they had to do to get their thing built was to bribe an administrator.
But this is China we're talking about. So
and
to
the
rope-
result
to rope it
is
back
they
in-
laid more concrete in the last 20 years than the entire Western world did in 100 years.
So let's rope it back in because I understand his sentiment, and it's basically that.
It's a very complicated topic, right?
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah,
it's
it can
basi-
go a bunch of ways. All of that concrete in the next 60 years is going to
You're
decay.
steamrolling.
But
It's-
You're
there's
steamrolling.
Okay,
You're
fair,
steamrolling.
fair.
You're steamrolling.
Yeah, they
So
laid a lot of
I'm just
concrete.
You're
really
also
interested in
That's
steamrolling.
bad.
This is the least I've ever talked. So I just would like to say.
I applaud you for the self-awareness.
I'm glad we're having fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so y'all are having fun. Basically, I understand. I agree with the sentiment because, again, I sent that article. You know, the city of Los Angeles spending $800 million. They got overcharged, and then they didn't use the properties that they bought for homelessness.
Yeah.
There's over 1,200 units vacant, and so it becomes this thing of like they constantly say we just need to tax the rich more. You know, they're not paying their fair share. But
We
in
went into this last
reality,
time.
huh?
You went into this last time.
Yeah.
How the rich are taxed too much.
It's
I
not.
want-
It's not.
I wanted
no,
to
no, no,
scream.
no,
I
that's-
don't
you're,
think
you're being
it's-
disingenuous there.
Yeah, I
Because
don't
it's
think
not
this
that
is an
the-
issue of. I do think that's everyone's band-aid is that the rich need to be paying more, and I think that they should too. But
But
also,
they already pay 51% of the state income tax currently. So when you say like,
yeah, compared to how much income and whatever, the discussion is that your average person will never, ever, ever.
no, I'm
That's
saying
also-
I'm saying
their
the
own
California
taxes.
state budget.
That's also not a
currently-
regressive tax.
Currently, the California state tax,
Mm-hmm.
50% of their entire state
There's a
income tax
difference.
revenue is from the top 1%,
Mm-hmm.
right? So my whole point is we're already taxing the rich more, and at some point you're gonna have to look at the government and say like, look, you do have more money than literally most of the governments, if not all the governments in the United States of America. Obviously, not the federal government.
Yeah.
And you're wasting our tax dollars, and so this is a reaction to them wasting our tax dollars. I mean, they're asking for another $100 billion for the high-speed rail project. $24 billion spent, didn't track it. 800 million spent in the city of Los Angeles, 1,200 vacant units. I mean, the list goes on. So then what
There's
is-
corruption in any system,
I
and there's
understand.
waste in any
I
system.
understand. So what is...
In fact, the size of the
okay,
system-
Let's narrow in. What is... If it's... Obviously, this current ballot initiative is a hotbed, and it's might not do what we want it to do.
But it's not a reaction from nothing. It is coming
Exactly.
from
So
people
what is
feeling
the solution?
overtaxed.
If in your eyes, as someone who's on the left,
Oh, we need to
or
do
the-
away with the proposition system in California. We especially need to make it harder to alter the Constitution, and we need to repeal a lot of the constitutional amendments that we've made over the last 30 years because they're making government in California really onerous. This is one of the problems in the way that they're spending their money, is the onerous bureaucracy managed by people
The
who
elites.
don't really know what they're doing.
I mean, I definitely think that the elites have no clue what they're doing.
Somebody wants something from the government, they can't get it through the legislature, they rally the base, and then they force the legislature to spend that money on bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's like you have Gavin Newsom being like, "Here's what my think tank says, so I'm going to do it." Like, and I think there has
They
to
make
be,
good arguments, better arguments than the ones that are standing outside the supermarket asking you to sign something.
Yeah.
I'm just saying at the end of the day,
They have statistics.
at the end of the day, to close this out, I definitely think that people's hearts are in the right place because they want to see their tax dollars do more. And I don't think that we in the state of California with a Democratic supermajority have seen how good the state can be if they actually use the tax dollars that they are currently given.
Efficiently. Yeah.
Exactly.
I think California could really, really turn things around if we were able to trim the fat on a lot of the
I
bureaucracy.
don't know
we
what
just
we're
need
talking about
checks.
turning things around.
We just
We
need
are
checks.
rapidly on our way to becoming the 5th largest economy in the world.
Oh, wow.
Everyone in California is doing much better than the rest of the world.
No, but
Los Angeles is like
terms
the
of,
most unaffordable place to live, and you're like, well, our
But
economy.
and yet
Yeah.
everybody in Los Angeles who can afford to live here lives here.
And
I know that
most-
sounds like circular
there's
logic, but what I
literally-
mean to say is it's unaffordable for people in Africa to live here,
Oh,
or
come on.
unaffordable
He
for people
does
in
this all the
Mississippi
time
to
where
live
he's
here.
like, "Let's
But
just
the people
zoom
who do
out,
live here
actually,
successfully, there's a lot of them, and they're very rich.
Yeah, except for people who live in multi-generational households, or
You know,
people
that's
who
a-
split an apartment complex.
it's a
or
great
an apartment
argument for a more-
many rooms or
Yeah,
whatever.
totally.
Like it just isn't.
It's just not affordable for the average person.
I
Yeah,
no,
it's
but
not
I know
affordable at all
I
for your
totally
average
totally
person.
agree. I want to know what your point is
My
because
point
the rich
is-
people seem to be doing fine, and yet he wants
My
them.
point is, I
he's
wanna
worried
see-
about them.
I wanna
I
see-
know.
No,
yes.
that has never been my
Like
whole
we
point.
need
Okay.
more equity,
I need to
not
clear
less
something up.
waste.
I want to clear this
No,
up.
we
Wait,
can
hey,
have
hey.
less waste
Wait,
by
wait.
far.
I want to clear this up because
We can have less waste
it's
and more
not-
equity. Both are the
Y'all,
same problem and the same solution.
Sure, but what do you mean? No, your
I don't
argument
know.
being like it's very affordable for some people, but for the average person, it's
No,
not.
I totally agree. That's
Scraping
exactly the
by
point that I
tooth and
wanted
nail,
to
and-
talk about.
I just feel like you guys have miscategorized what I'm saying. I'm not saying
No,
I've
his
heard it all
point
before.
No, but his point is, if this isn't the solution, if we can't argue that you shouldn't keep raising taxes on us unless the people agree to it, because we feel like the tax dollars are currently being wasted and not used efficiently, what is the actual solution going forward to make the equity or imbalance the system?
The reason why those apartments are vacant in Los Angeles is because rich people fleece the government. The reason why there's a lot of homeless people in Los Angeles is because rich people keep property prices up and make sure that there's lots of roadblocks in the process to building
the
affordable
point of
housing
because those housing
because they're
units are
NIMBYs.
vacant, not because of NIMBYs. The housing is already built. All right. So you can't be like, well, the NIMBYs, the housing is already built. Okay, there's 1,200 units currently in the city of Los Angeles that are designated for homeless people that are not being used. Okay, they're already built. This isn't like, okay, well,
Have you
they
looked
have
into the
this-
roadblocks and why they haven't actually put people in those?
brother?
Why haven't they put people in
the
those?
drug policy, the this and that? Yes, I understand that there's all these little BS things that are keeping people.
All
from,
those little BS things are in the interest of the people who want to keep property prices up, and they've been putting those little
So
BS
why-
things
why-
into
okay,
the
so-
codes for
Also,
years.
to be clear, I don't think having a drug policy where you can't be using drugs in housing
Totally, that's fine. Yeah.
feels very reasonable to me.
I understand.
To be like, the drug policy is keeping people from getting like.
Yeah,
I
they're
don't-
all
No, but
they're all
there's been
very
numerous
reasonable in
properties
isolation. That's the
where
other problem.
Homeless people are sitting outside of the property that they're supposed to be in, and they're like, "Why aren't you going inside?"
Because you're not allowed to do drugs inside the building, so I do drugs outside the building.
Exactly.
It's
So,
semantical, yeah.
I mean, overall, to close this out, there needs to be a solution to keep our government in check to make sure that they spend dollars efficiently instead of wasting. That's really what it comes down to. Now, this ballot initiative,
We could
think-
move on.
I think it should be left up to the people, and
I mean, I do too.
don't try to remove it from the ballot, because then you can remove anything you disagree with, and then you become a
It's
fascist.
just a classic cliche to say the government needs to be kept in check to reduce waste. That's a timeless.
How many audits has the Pentagon
analogy.
failed?
I
mean,
all
just saying.
governments everywhere fail,
just saying.
but this whole like focus on like waste is a classic like
He's just like
atavistic,
super left, so he will never say
instinctual
anything
desire
bad
Yeah,
for
but-
less
about the
waste.
Democratic
Yeah,
Party.
but
that doesn't
no one,
actually.
No one
It's
wants
so
waste.
vague.
And
This
then
statement,
it's
right?
not vague when you look at a bureaucracy and you go, "Where'd all your money go? Did you do what you said you
Bro,
would
the
do with
article
that
No,
Money.
money?"
totally,
Articles
that's
and
fine.
shit, they
But
overcharged
what's
them
what's
hundreds
vague
of
is to
tens of
just
millions
keep
of dollars.
repeating that statement and not actually give an answer to why, because those answers do exist.
Move on. Just move on to the next.
Things are very crazy here in our political sphere. I think that goes without saying. But things are also pretty crazy on the opposite side of the Pacific. China has basically been exerting its influence using something called the Nine Dash Line, which is a map that was drawn up in 1947, arguing that it has lots of territorial control over the oceans to the northwest of the Philippines, including Taiwan, to the east of Vietnam. And they have basically been building these little, like, if there's like a sandbar
Yeah, they've
or
been
a
making
coral
these
reef,
islands and
they would
saying, like,
fully
this is our-
construct an island. If even though it was completely underwater, they would basically bring out a bunch of dirt and sand, and they would build it up so that they could build like
Military
a refueling
bases,
station
yeah.
or an air base or whatever. And there have been some recent developments where the current Philippine president, who is a lot less friendly to China than the last president, basically caught some Chinese diplomats talking to a Philippine admiral or someone fairly high up in their navy, and they were having discussions about how the admiral was basically making concessions to the Chinese diplomat about how things would be going down in the South China Sea. And the president was like, "This is unacceptable, and we're going to be kicking out a bunch of these people because they're doing spying and things that are wildly inappropriate." And things are crazy.
Yeah,
things are
and
real
that's
crazy.
just one side of the sea, because then you have China coming out saying again they want to punish Taiwan for existing, basically, and they're going to circle the island over the next few weeks as punishment. So there's a lot going on in the South China Sea, and it's actually very interesting.
It's not, it's not threatening at all that they want to do those military exercises encircling the island. And,
I mean,
no, it's just
they
just
run
a
into
military
people's
exercise.
Yeah,
It's not. They're not actually doing anything.
Yeah, that's what they claim. Except that they repeatedly will be very aggressive to other nations' vessels and whatnot, and try to run them into the bottom of the sea, basically, and almost collide with it. All kinds of stuff. I mean, they recently just shot missiles over. Oh no, was it North Korea or was it China that shot missiles over the island?
I think you're thinking of North Korea shooting missiles
Yeah,
over Japan.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in that region of the world.
I used to find this very interesting, but now I find this conversation kind of concerning because we really like to hand wring over China, and we like to say, the water's getting hotter, we're gonna have a war, oh my
I
god.
certainly hope not.
Yeah, right.
But
yeah,
it is definitely a concern of the people of the Philippines
and
Taiwan.
a lot of the conversation is kind of set in the form of complaints about what China is doing and how it's doing it, which are certainly very complaint worthy, but very little of the conversation revolves around why they're doing it and the greater macroeconomic forces that are causing them to do it.
I mean, sure, we could get into the weeds
And-
about why China wants to control Taiwan because that's
I
where they
guess
get
I'm not
that's where they get their
talking generally
water.
about you guys, but also like Foreign Policy Magazine and whatnot, and Time
Sure.
Magazine. And I don't want to fall into that trap.
But like, when we
I
start
also want to
getting
talk about
into-
the conversation itself.
No, and that's fair. I just think like when
Because there's
China very clearly wants to control that region because it's a very, very strong economic corridor. There's lots of oil reserves. There's a lot of reasons for China
There's
to
a lot of
want
fish.
it. There's a lot of fish, and like, it's a great food source. It's a great economic source. I can understand the CCP wanting to control it, but do I think they have a legitimate claim to it? No. And do I think they're being really aggressive?
totally agree.
They're
Yeah.
being super aggressive about their approach, and infringing on the governments of Vietnam and the Philippines, and especially Taiwan.
It's very concerning, but it's also like, and I don't mean to minimize it, but also to highlight the other big conflicts that are going around in the world that are the same. They're very powerful nations slowly throwing their weight
You're
around
talking about
and
Israel
encroaching
Ukraine
upon other
and
nations.
I mean, I feel like
It's happening in South Africa. It's America's doing it.
Is
It's everybody.
Russia is doing the war in Ukraine is because they want access to the sea, and because
It's
it's the
also-
breadbasket
Yeah,
of
and,
Europe.
and
also
China
NATO
is
factors.
pushing that gas pedal just enough, very slowly over 20 years, so that 30 years before they have a long-term vision of no war and South China Sea, right? And if Philippines pushes back a little bit, they're gonna be like, okay, we'll be okay. We'll sit back for maybe 6 months and then we'll slowly encroach again. It was just a conversation, right? That would be what they would say. Whereas other nations, which shall go unnamed, but we all know who we're talking about, just pedal to the metal, just rolled over people, and also did it over 100 years. And I think that should be the bigger conversation right now.
Debatable. I mean, you don't think that the Russia-Ukraine conflict wasn't partially NATO's fault for violating
I think that's
the
also
Treaty
a
of
100-year
Lausanne,
conflict because it goes back to Stalin starving the population as a way of ethnic cleansing.
I mean, I don't think Ukraine, NATO instigated the conflict. I do think.
I think that they are using that as like a scapegoat
Why?
because they're like, remember this
Why is
Treaty
it a
of
threat
Lausanne?
to the Philippines that China would take the sea?
It's a threat to Philippine sovereignty, and
Couldn't-
because they
I mean-
have
I mean-
no, if China is the one who is
Let me-
the
let me-
sole
let me
arbiter
iterate
of
on that
economic
one more
corridor,
time.
then the Philippines and Vietnam. I mean, okay.
Why shouldn't China just give a portion of the economic proceeds of the South China Sea to Filipinos?
So you think they're going to do that?
No, but I think
said
why
no,
couldn't they do
In
that?
no way ever. But
No,
also
right.
because it sets up a colonial system where you control everything in the region, and we'll give you a piece of
Yeah.
the proceeds, and then later you can renege on the deal, and you have all the infrastructure and all of the military support and whatever.
And
the
if-
Philippines and Vietnam have no ground to stand up in this moment in time
And why do they want Taiwan?
for
Because
their microchips.
why are they?
Why do they want
No,
true China?
no, because of the people in Taiwan that they see as Chinese, but they don't see the Filipinos as Chinese.
No, Hitler only wanted parts of Austria and Czechoslovakia because the Germans were there, and there's the ethnic Russians
saw-
in Ukraine, and blah blah blah. We're just trying
Yeah,
to reunite. No, I mean
There was a certain degree of ethnic pluralism that's driving
and
it.
also 60% of the world's microchips being built.
No, sure,
there.
yeah, totally.
Like
But they're trying to take Taiwan, but they're not trying to take Philippines. Not simply because there's no microchips there. There's also oil. It's a valuable military base. They could take it if they wanted to.
They couldn't.
They're not going
that's
to
the big
invest
question.
any
I don't
resources
think that
in there.
They can, and I think the United States investing militarily and socially in the Philippines for decades to bolster them
the
in the
ties
same.
I don't know.
Ties
I don't want.
with
I don't want to suggest that
Japan.
China's racist. I just want to suggest that that
They
that
are.
there's
the
a,
Chinese are racist to the Chinese, especially. I mean
the Uyghurs and
like
No, sure,
my
yeah.
man,
I'm not debating any of that. I'm rather I would say that like in the way that they are engaging in ethnic pluralism,
All right, what
like
are
the
you trying to
belief
get
that
to?
different.
Yeah, what is this?
Like, what is
Y-
this devil's advocacy?
I don't want to say that I'm devil advocate. I just want to widen the conversation.
This
to
really
to
felt
like
devil's advocating
the
for China,
underlying
and then be like, but it's also
the
happening in
underlying
other
problem
parts of the
here is
world.
not simply that they're just like encroaching on economic space and taking more resources, because that's what we as Americans would be like, oh, you can't do that. That's our resources, or that's the Philippines' resources. You know, right?
They are our resources.
They
How
are.
dare the Chinese
Yeah,
take
and-
American resources in the South China Sea?
Exactly.
What
Yeah,
did you say,
because
Chow?
those are valuable trading partners and
stumbled,
whatnot
it
and whatnot.
happens.
You know, I also want to highlight that there's an element that China is taking what China wants because it thinks that China deserves it because the Chinese people
So
deserve it.
you're not concerned
and
at all that all
that
these
is
little-
concerning to me as a general trend in worldwide political discourse.
I'm just it's,
Th-
we're
because
just in a,
it's the idea
steamroller.
that I want to get this one point.
you've had 20.
There's always another.
There's 20. You've had
Okay,
20.
fair.
Look, all I'm gonna say is, it's very.
You know what I'm
cons-
talking about, right? Though.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying it's very concerning because you have all of these major powers that want these specific areas, and it could lead to a world war when you have, North Korea wants this, and China wants this in multiple different areas, and Russia wants this, and this nation over here wants this, and it's like, bro, like we're literally on the cusp. You have North Korea flying to Iran.
I don't
trying to
think.
strengthen-
Also, I don't think we're on the cusp. I want to walk that,
You don't think so?
lower the temperature.
You
a
don't
lot.
think? You don't think at all?
I don't think.
that-
I don't think that's going to be the start of the world war. I think Israel Palestine is, but
I don't think that Israel Palestine will be the start of the world war. All it takes is for, like you said, they're just lightly tapping that
Yeah,
gas
all
pedal.
it takes is a miscommunication or you hit the accelerator a little harder and then it bounces off a little too hard, and
I don't
Okay.
see in
okay,
foreign
you
policy
don't see it
circles
going that way, right?
that
I'm
kind
curious
of
if you guys think if China does hit the accelerator, they stop. Very recently, there was a news report that Chinese National Guard vehicles would spray these really heavy-duty water cannons on smaller Philippine National Guard vehicles, and 4 sailors were fairly badly wounded because the windows on their ship exploded inwards, and
I remember reading about these incidents in 2012.
I mean, they're still going on though.
Yeah.
And so
and all
if
it
you
takes
think,
is one push. It's the same thing on the border between China and India. Like they have an agreement.
they're just doing melee combat.
Yeah, where they're
instead
throwing
of,
rocks
And
hitting
and
each other.
and we might as well be talking about Pakistan and
India.
India and Yemen and Saudi Arabia and
But you get
But
what
this
I'm
is
there's a bunch of
specifically
them.
about the Philippine president kicking out a bunch of Chinese diplomats.
Yeah, I
and
guess
the
my problem
Chinese
is with your
response being
editorial,
but the Chinese,
why
the
this?
Chinese response is why are you limiting our ability to talk to each other? This isn't fair. It's not it's a pretty unreasonable response, blah, blah, blah. And the Philippine government's this is spying. This is espionage.
Mm-hmm.
And you're working with people behind our backs and you're making deals and this is our
But that's
part of the
look,
ocean.
The whole point I'm just saying is they're gonna fuck around with the wrong country. They're gonna hit that accelerator pedal, and they're gonna retaliate. And it's not gonna be they're not gonna go to America. What should I do? They're literally just gonna be all right, we're gonna go kill them, and then it's gonna spark a war, which will lead to a broader conflict.
There's a great skit I just saw on YouTube. I wish I could play it, but in basic, it was a meeting of the Australian Joint Chiefs, and the head guy is like, "What's our biggest threat right now?" And they were like, "China." And he were like, "What are we trying to protect from China?" And they were like, "Strategic interests." And he was like, "Be more specific." Indo-Pacific strategic interests. And he was like, no, exactly what are we protecting?
Yeah.
And I'll go, trade routes. And they go, yeah, trade routes. And he's like, who is our biggest trading partner? China. And he goes, how much money are we spending protecting trade routes? $30 billion. So we're protecting trade routes with China, from China, with $30 billion. Explain that to me.
I mean, we're decoupling now, so it's not going to be the same going forward in the future.
I mean, also it's a factor of China is an incredible trade partner to a bunch of people in the region, and so the big issue with this framing is I feel the past president, who was president until 2022, was no, we don't want enemies. We want to be friends with the United States. We want to be friends with China. They're one of our largest trading partners. We should be fine. If the discussion is respectful and mutual, we have no problems making deals.
Mm-hmm.
And China continued to encroach, and there's another president.
And
they
you know what?
They keep poking
Nothing-
and tiptoeing the line. And
Nothing
moving
the
forward.
Philippines are going to do. The Philippines can do nothing to stop that. China is just going
you
to
don't think
slowly
if they
press
just
that gas
They
pedal.
should, you think they should just concede?
I don't think they
and
should
let
do that.
China,
I don't think they should concede. I think they should just like push back as hard as they can without pushing back too hard, and that's what they're doing. And
so what do you think happens?
it's just going to go on like that.
What do you think happens when there's like a general?
It sucks.
A general on one of these Philippine vessels that's like fuck it, and just fucking
That
goes for it.
that could happen anywhere in the world at any time.
It could
in any other
but
situation.
I'm just saying is that's my point is that all it takes for a larger conflict to start is China.
I
being
think you're
the
trying to
aggressor.
drive up fears of war with China.
I don't
And
think
I
this is a
th- and
fears
I
of war.
don't-
No, I
you know,
think it's just
in
a
the
much
editorial about
larger-
this as opposed to some other
but
topic.
The discussion is that it is a growing powder keg as China continues to try and flex its economic and military weight in
Sure.
the region.
Yeah.
And like, do I think that it's more likely going to be a problem with Taiwan? Sure. But as they continue to encroach and they build up these military bases and insist they have control of these
Yeah,
regions,
but it's like,
and they're
what do you want to do about
trying
it?
to sink Philippine ship, just like. What do you mean? What do I personally want to do about it? Just
Yeah.
discuss the issue.
No,
and
yeah.
think that
What do you want to
it's-
do about it?
I think. I think at the end of the day, like China needs to be put in its place and told to back the fuck off in a way that's like.
See,
fuck
no,
outta here.
see, this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying.
I mean, I just
do you
think,
mean?
I just think
that's
there
a
need
very
to be firmer
valid-
lines drawn in the sand. And
That's
be
what
like,
I'm
hey,
saying.
Look, I don't see but when you frame it as like China needs to back off and we'll put them in their place, it's very leading towards conflict.
Okay, yeah.
The
Right.
point is to
wait.
try and de-escalate the region and try and come up with, I don't know, like
I'm totally with you on that. You know, there's a diplomatic solution where everybody gets some sort of equitable arrangement that
like
involves
a pan-South Pacific
Right.
alliance or
That-
something
that
where
involves-
everyone has a vote, where China can't use their population and economy to bully their
right.
neighbors.
And in
force
order to
them
do
into
that, we have to
concessions.
have some sort of world government apparatus. Call it the UN. And then we have to seriously engage in the
Something like that,
UN and not be totally hypocritical in order to get other people to also abide by the UN's rules. And we have to give the UN more power in as much over them, also over us, in order to get China to do
That'll
stuff.
never happen. This is America, boy. This is
So,
America.
yeah, so he
No,
wants,
it's not up to
he's-
me.
he's going for more
It's- no,
conflict
it's not up to
and,
me. You really
uh,
think that
delineation
America's
between
gonna be
parties.
like, yeah, we're just gonna let the
kowtow to the United
he's
Nations
going
or
for
whatever. I
more
just don't.
competition between
no, I'm
world
not. I'm
groups
just saying
rather
that
than
the
more
United
cohesion.
States, I mean, come on. What is the UN without fucking America? We have the
Stop
strongest military.
swearing.
That was one.
Of-
He has 20.
He's got
Alright.
a bunch, and you've also got a bunch.
I've got one.
I'm
not
here
gonna-
for fun.
All right, look. All I'm trying to say, all right, is the United States of America is a part of the UN, but will do as they please with the UN. All right, we've seen this recently.
Which really undermines our arguments in the South China Sea.
So I'm just saying, at the end of the day,
You getting that?
at the end of the day,
Yeah.
you're basically asking for the
Less
United States to
ethnic
stop
pluralism.
becoming- you want the United States to stop becoming this world power and
More world government.
and you want the
Yes.
world to actually partake more in.
We should
policing the
empower the
world.
ICC and the IJC, ICJ, the ICJ and the ICC, International Criminal Court, International Criminal Court of
But
Justice.
essentially, right now
something
they
like
have
that.
like no power because they're basically going to say screw off,
Hmm.
and they're going to do what the hell they want to do at the end of the day. I mean, with the recent conflict and
We need more power as a world united to sanction China in order to actually, you know, we need to
well, I think we're getting there though. I mean,
bargain
I
collectively.
mean, with the decoupling
with China.
with the decoupling of China, even though China's trying to move into Mexico now and try to keep their power. But
Look
I
at
think,
him
I think,
inciting conflict.
No. I'm saying
No, I mean, no. China is definitely flexing their economic
Yeah,
weight
no, totally.
and trying to.
We are too.
Make
Are
huge
Can I
you
make my point?
are you aware of the whole
Jesus.
treasury bond
All right.
thing?
No, I'm gonna make my point.
No,
I
finish
think
your point.
I think with the decoupling, we're gonna see that China will understand. Like, look, if you push them too far, all these countries too far, and then we lose economic value due to it, then I think they'll understand. Like, okay, this is bad for our country, especially with what's going on inside.
Because
of
that's
China.
worked so well so far over the last 2,000 years.
What are you talking about? It's going great. More and more countries are.
You were just telling me how we're on the brink of war.
No,
I'm
no.
talking about the decoupling specifically. It takes
Yeah.
years for us to decouple.
It does.
No,
yeah.
people are not talking about decoupling entirely. They're talking about
I know.
diversifying
Exactly.
strategic resource production.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And that's why I'm saying.
And when
is-
they don't have their monopoly, they can't flex as much economic weight because
Exactly.
you have other options. And yada,
Right,
yada, yada.
This
right.
is why we're
But I
building
don't
chip
think
manufacturers
I
in
don't think I
America.
want
We're
to.
building
I
in
don't think I
Mexico.
want them to stop selling us SpongeBob soap dispensers. You know.
I don't know.
Like-
I'd like there to be less of those in general. Because
Sure,
there's a lot
totally, yeah.
A lot of waste that is coming from
back to the waste.
single use.
Yeah, but like we should still
I'm
have a
not
really
wrong.
strong economic
It
relationship.
just yes, considering they're one of the largest economies in the world.
Right, and
but-
because that in and of itself prevents war because it's collective bargaining.
yeah.
Thank you guys for tuning in today, staying as long as you have, talking about the California Ballot Initiative, Trump and the Trump trials, and the South China Sea. Start a war in the comments. Let us know what you think, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.